Hello class and welcome to our today's lesson. Today's lesson we are going to talk about the suspense account as the continuation of the topic on the errors. So on today's lesson, I want you to understand first of all what is a suspense account. Once a trial balance has been drawn and you find that the totals of the trial balance they don't agree, like in this case, this is a trial balance and the totals of this side and this side were not agreeing, then it simply means that there was that 3,000 that was making the two sides not to agree. This 33,000 is now inserted here to the suspense account, which is actually the difference between the two sides. So the suspense account is normally used to record the errors when the trial balance fails to balance. So it is recorded in the suspense account, and then the accountant will go ahead to find out why the two sides were not having the same figure, and therefore it acts like maybe a temporary account where the error amount is recorded pending investigation. In this case, you'll find that because it was the debit side that had less amount in the suspense account, that amount is going to be recorded also in the debit side. If it is the credit side that had less, this amount was supposed to be recorded on the credit side. On that note, I want us to do an illustration on how do we correct errors. First note, the errors are normally corrected in the general journal. The general journal is prepared. Remember, the general journal, we said it has the column for the date, the details, the debit, and the credit column. So like, for example, let us look at these cases one by one. Traders, when preparing their financial statement, realized the following errors upon investigation in the books of accounts. Extra capital, 400,000 paid into the bank had been credited in the sales. Look at this statement. The extra capital was put as sales instead of capital. When extra capital is put into the business, capital is supposed to be credited, but the mistake was crediting the sales account. That simply tells you the credit side of capital has less 400,000 because it was supposed to receive this figure, but it did not, and the sales account on the credit side has 400,000 more. Capital has 400 less because this figure is missing. Sales has got 400,000 more because this figure was recorded there and it was not supposed to be there. So your task is very simple. Remove 400,000 from sales because it has excess. Put it on the credit side of capital 400,000 because it has less, and you have done your work. That is how they did it here. If you can have a look at this particular case, you will find that sales, because it was having 400,000 more on the credit, you put 400,000 on the debit side. My statement still holds here. If this figure was on the credit side of sales, that is where it was excess. To remove it, you debit. And then, because capital was supposed to have 400,000 on the credit side, that is why we put it here on the credit side. So, not in accounting, if the figure is on the credit, to minus it, you debit. If it is on the debit, to minus it, you credit. So our work was to minus 400,000 from the credit side. That's why we debited this, and then we put this figure on the credit side, and that error has been corrected. Let us look at the second type of error that was noted here. MM took goods for own use, 7,000, but this has been debited to general expenses. Look here, when goods are taken for own use, we said that is called drawings. Instead of recording it in drawings, the person had indicated that amount in the general expenses. So the work here is to remove this figure from general expenses, and then we indicate it on the drawings because that is where it belongs. Drawings are supposed to be debited. General expenses are also debited when expenses are paid. So Because general expenses were debited erroneously, we credit it and then we debit drawings because that is how it was supposed to be. That is how they have done it here. They have gone ahead. Drawings was supposed to be debited. That's why it is here on the debit side. The general expenses were debited by mistake. That's why we are crediting to minus that amount that is on the debit erroneously. And then you put a narration what you have done. Let us see the third error that happened. The third error that took place here is private insurance of 1500 had been debited to insurance account. Again, remember here, the word private is meant for personal use. Personal use is drawings. So instead of recording on the drawings, it was recorded in the business insurance account. Remember, this is an expense, and whenever expenses are paid, they are debited. Because this one was debited by mistake, we minus by crediting insurance and then debiting drawings. And actually, that is what they have done here. That is what they have done here. They have debited drawings because it was supposed to be debited, and then they have credited insurance because it was debited by mistake. So we credit it to subtract it or to minus there. Then the fourth error that was noted was this: a credit purchase of goods from ABC Limited that 5,000 had been entered in the books as 25. It was credit purchase of that 5, but it was entered in the books as 25. That tells you there was 10,000 that was never recorded. There was 10,000 that was never recorded. That simply means we add 10,000 to the purchases. We also add 10,000 to the ABC Limited because it is our creditor. So you will note that purchases, because was debited, because it has less 10,000, we debit again by 10,000. We credit ABC, who is a creditor, by 10,000, so that now we can top up this 25 to be that 5,000. That is how they have done it here. That is how they have done it here. Purchases account has been debited by 10,000 to make it that 5. BC Limited has been credited by 10,000 to also add it up to that 5,000 shillings. Then this one here, error number 5, credit sales of 14,500 to Albert did not appear anywhere in the books. That is an error of omission. Credit sales to Albert. Remember, Albert, if you sold goods to him, Albert is our debtor. So Albert was supposed to be debited by 14,500. Sales was supposed to be credited by 14,500. And that is what you do when it comes to the error of omission here. You debit Albert, who is a debtor, and then you credit sales because sales is always credited like that. We go to the next error, which is actually number 6. Cash drawings 4,000 had been credited to the bank column of the cash book. Cash drawings of 4,000 had been credited to the bank column. Had been credited to the bank column of the cash book. It was cash, but it was recorded in the bank. That is now the mistake. Bank was not supposed to be affected because these drawings were in cash form. That simply means because we took money from bank by mistake in our account, we debit bank account 4,000, we credit cash 4,000. Why are we doing so? Bank was not supposed to be affected. If we credited bank, that was a mistake. We debit it back, or we add back the 4,000 that we minused from the bank account, and then now we minus the correct account, which is cash. And that is what has been done here. That is what has been done here. Bank was not supposed, because we credited, we debit, or we add back the amount, and then we minus that. Let us look at the transaction number 7, which says that return inwards of 16,800 from Simon had been entered in error in Simpson account. Remember, when goods are being returned into the business, we normally debit return inwards and credit the person who is returning. In this case, instead of now crediting Simon, we credited Simpson. Because Simpson was credited by mistake, we shall debit him back and then we credit Simon because it was supposed to be the person. He's the person who was supposed to be credited. So we debit Simpson, then we credit Simon. Like that. That's how we normally correct those errors. As simple as that, and then you are done. Thank you for your attention. Have blessed moments.